Hello everyone. I wanted to film a quick intro because today is the 1st of October and I'm starting my final series reading vlog for the year. And this one is for this series that has a very long title, something something Athena Club. I will look it up again, I promise, for the end of the video. But we're going to read this trilogy starting with The Strange Case of the Alchemist's Daughter by Theodora Goss. I'm very excited. I have very high expectations because I've heard a lot of people love it. This will also be a buddy read with my best friend singular, because I got her these books as well as a gift, so that will be extra fun to read it with someone else. I hope that I can read these very quickly. I think plot-wise we are following the daughter of Mr. Jekyll, and yeah, this has like female characters from these like gothic horror tales, and they're going on an adventure, I guess. So we'll see. I let you know what I think about these books always during the halfway point and then when I finished with the book. So at the end I hope this will be a very fun experience for all of us. And now I'm gonna get reading. Okay, this is gonna be an odd update, but I am sick, and I'm finally reading again because, yeah, for a couple of days my brain just was not computing. But I'm now halfway through The Strange Case of the Alchemist's Daughter, and so I wanted to give you a very quick first update for this series. Now, in this one, we are following the daughter of Dr. Jekyll, and her parents are now dead, and she doesn't have any money anymore. And so she starts kind of investigating her father's life, more or less by accident, I guess. And she starts finding out some family secrets. And while she does that, she's also meeting some other girls who are connected with these family secrets. And so that's the basic setup of the story. And it's quite funny because in here you get these little notes that the characters write into the manuscript, because one of the characters, Catherine, is writing the manuscript and the other characters are basically commenting on it. So that's a little bit of a nice gimmick if you enjoy these kinds of things. And so far, for the first half of this book, it has mostly been these characters meeting up. Now, if you like characters like Sherlock Holmes, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, the Dr. Moreau with his island and stuff like that, if you like these kind of references, then this book is really fun because we have a ton of these references in here, and all of these characters are connected to these like very famous literary figures and stuff like that, and it builds very much on that. So this is mostly historical, but then we also have fantasy elements because we have like certain like abilities that some of our characters have. So there is this like kind of like horror, sci-fi, fantasy element to that as well. And I'm really enjoying this book so far. I'm having fun reading this, but I feel like it needs to pick up a little bit now. I don't know. I feel like because my reading of this has been very disjointed, because I've read the first 100 pages in a day, and I wanted to buddy read this with my best friend, so I decided to wait after that, and so I waited for pretty much a month, but she didn't get around to starting the book. So then I decided, you know what, I'm just gonna read it because I was starting to forget the first 100 pages again. And now I've read the next 100 pages, in the last couple of days. And I feel like whenever I do this, whenever I don't like sit down and read a book, I just stay more disconnected, obviously. And I don't want that. I want to love this series. So, yeah, I hope that the second half will pick up a little bit now because I think we've now met all of the important characters. And I really want to get more into the mystery of things. But I'm having fun. This is very cozy, but still has that autumnal vibe. So, yeah, I'm very happy to keep reading that in the bathtub in a second. And then hopefully, when I'm done with this, I will be healthy enough to give you a real update. So, I'm still sick, but I just finished The Strange Case of the Alchemist's Daughter, and so I wanted to give you an update. So, this update is gonna have a lot of cuts because I have to cut out my coughing. But I hope that I can still talk about this a little bit. I'm very sorry. This is not the high quality content that I wanted to share with you, but what can you do? So I finished the book. I decided to give it 4 stars. I must say that I am a little bit disappointed because I expected more from this. Just from the way people were talking about it, I thought that it would be much more girl power and also more feminist in its themes. But I found that we do get quite prominent male characters here as well. And one of the things that I'm not the biggest fan of is how we have these like romantic tensions. Now, I don't want to spoil anything, but yeah, for there being like two guys who are not despicable and they immediately kind of pair up with two of the girls is not my favorite, and the romancy bits are only implied. That's not like a big plot point yet, but still it is very heterosexual, which I did not expect from this book at all. So that's one point where I just thought it would be different. The solving of the case, I expected just there to be more girls, you know what I mean? I felt like it has a little bit of that feeling of they couldn't have done it without the guys, and that is just not what I expected. Now, talking about the conclusion again without any spoilers, I feel like the actual perpetrator in the end was also disappointing to me because it kind of, I don't know, it used a character that I see very differently in the literature and in like media that picked that character up. I have a very different view on this character, and so it just didn't match up with what I think that character is, and that made me really sad. And it just ruined the book a little bit for me as well. It was still fun, it's still a good time. I think the writing is fun. You have that little gimmick I talked about. So I think if you're interested in the book, then definitely check it out. But I just expected to absolutely love it, and that did not happen. Now I want to go into a couple of spoilers as far as my voice allows. I'm sorry, I have to keep these updates short. It's very not great to talk for a long time. So for the resolution, in the end, we find out that the Frankenstein monster is the one killing the girls, and that was just so disappointing to me. I have been watching Penny Dreadful again, and so that is my kind of monster, you know? He still has the same motivation in a way, but he is so much more than what we got in the book for the monster. And so it just felt
very flat to me. In my imagination, the monster is just so much more eloquent, and making him like the actual monster just doesn't add up so much with what I see. So I would have much preferred to have the man being the monster and not the monster being the monster. So that was really sad, and I just wish it would have been a little bit different. And then I really don't know how I feel about Sherlock Holmes being in this book. I did not expect him to play such a big role. Like, him showing up in the beginning was fun and all, but then he just never left, and I just didn't like that. I don't know why, but I feel like it made this book feel so much more a Sherlock Holmes story than a story about the girls. And also the like romantic tension with Mary is just not for me. I don't really like it, and as I said, we have like Beatrice and Watson as well, which I also don't really love. I think, yeah, I just expected it to be more gay. I don't know why, but I felt like if we have like so many monstrous girls, there should at least be one gay one. I don't know. Maybe that will come, but for now, there's no hint of that. So far, all of the potential love interests have been male. I think apart from that, I'm definitely intrigued to see whether we will meet Hyde again, because that is still the mystery that is unsolved. But it seems that for the second book, which I have right here, and for some reason I thought this was the third book because it is the biggest. We're going from 400 to 700 pages. I don't know how I feel about that. But yeah, it seems we're going to Europe, so there is a chance we might meet Hyde again. Apart from that, I don't feel like the book did anything crazy. It just uses like the tropes that are there for the time period, and it is fun, but I just wanted it to be great, so I'm kind of sad. So I will continue reading the second book now, and that will probably take me a while, so I hope that for the next update I will be a fully functioning human again. But I did already mention that there's gonna be like most winter random. Well, I feel like this is gonna be a horrible vlog because I'm still fighting COVID. But I'm now halfway through European travel for the Monstrous Gentlewoman by Theodora Goss. This book is too long. I'm now 350 pages into it, so we're almost at the length of the first novel, and I'm just halfway through. I don't know why this book is so long. I don't think that it should have been. But oh well, we're here, we're doing it, and I'm fighting my way through. I don't look so great, I don't sound so great, but I hope you can bear with me for this update. So, in this one, we are following our girls from the first book on a new adventure. We do have kind of this overarching, like, enemy secret society, but we also have kind of a new case. This one is not of a serial killer, but it is about a disappearance, kind of. So, one girl who also seems to have special powers has disappeared, and now our characters are going to look for her. And this one, you can guess from the title, has more traveling because our characters leave England and they are going to Austria and Hungary. So now, halfway through right now, we are just leaving Austria. And that means that there was quite a bit of German in this book, and I always like it when different languages are used within a book, but then I get so frustrated if it's not correct. And unfortunately, there were a couple of things in here. I think there was only one thing that was grammatically completely incorrect, but then there's like other things that Germans just wouldn't say. Now, you could argue that this is Austria and it is also very much set in the past, so things were said differently. But then there is some things where I'm like, yeah, but I don't think they would have said that during that time as well. So, for example, there is one scene where Justine, who is supposed to be this like big language whiz, and she addresses someone using the word Frau. So she says something, it's like, come here, Frau. And you just wouldn't do that because it is as if you would call someone an English woman. And it's like very derogative and it's not meant in that way in that sentence, for example. So it just feels off, you know? And yeah, so I have a little bit of a mixed feeling about the use of like other languages. There's also some Dutch in here, which obviously I don't speak, so I don't know if there's similar problems with that. There might have been some French in there somewhere, or it was in the first book, I'm not quite sure. All languages I cannot say anything about because I'm not proficient in them. There was also some Italian. I think that was mostly correct, but since it's not my like no my first language, I wouldn't realize if there were just like these like weird little inconsistencies that you just wouldn't use in that way. That's just what happens when there's German in books, I guess. For the plot, I feel like this is very much blown up, and what frustrates me a little bit with this book is that for us it is super obvious what is going on because of the characters that are involved, and also when we meet certain characters and we get described what they look like and how they behave, we immediately know what kind of creature they are or what's going on with them. But our characters don't, because this is supposed to be a mystery, and that's always just difficult to do, you know? I feel like with the first book, I also guessed very quickly what was going on, but it was only 400 pages, and the characters kind of caught up with it kind of quickly as well, and it still had a little bit of a twist at the end. But with this thing right now, it is so obvious, and I still have 350 pages to go with it, and I'm like, when will these characters catch up to me? Because I know what is happening here. And yeah, so I feel it's just too long, and it's also stretched out a lot because our characters are not all together, but we have basically two groups of characters that we are following, and I feel like that is also a little bit unbalanced because we follow this group of characters for a longer time and then we jump back now to the other characters, and I feel like we have to catch up weeks and weeks to the other ones and stuff. And so I don't know, I just feel like this could have been streamlined a lot more, and it's just, yeah, it's just much. It's just so much for not very much payoff so far. So that's very unfortunate because I want to love these books, but I think that they're just not what I really want them to be. And talking about the first book, I also mentioned that I thought this would be more gay. And this also comes back around with the second book because at the beginning, I was just so annoyed. We have this one male character and he puts himself into everything. And this is called out by our girls in the book. But then I'm like, why is he still in there? And luckily now we have reached a point where he only pops up in like mentions here and there. And I'm like, okay. But really, having that character in these books is just dragging it down for me because I just wasn't expecting that, and it just feels like this character has taken over so many scenes, and I just want to like take a rubber and just erase him from those scenes. So I think that's all I can say without spoilers. The cat is here as well. Thank you for that. And so, yeah, I'll let you know what I think once I finish this book, which still might take days and days. We'll see. It's so long. Why is it so long?
There it is again. No German would ever end a question with nein. It doesn't work. It's not like no at the end, you know? We don't do that.
This vlog is gonna be so much fun. I'm still fighting the cough, but it has gotten much better, I promise. It's literally only when I talk. So, amazing. But I have finished The Brick. That is European travel for the Monstrous Gentlewoman. So, finished book 2 of this series, and I decided to give it 3.5 stars. My overall judgment of this book is that it is too long. If this would have been 400 pages, like the first book, I think it would have worked so much better. I think for the ending and the payoff that we get, 700 pages is just too much. And it's not that I was bored per se, but I never felt like the urge to pick this book up. And I think that also has to do with the length of the chapters. They just felt too long for me personally. I feel like with a story like this, I just need a bit of a faster pace, because this is not a series where I feel like the character work is very important, and then when the plot is also kind of slow and meandering, it just doesn't work for me so well. So I think this is quite a cozy story, because even though we do have kind of high stakes, it is at all times quite easy to see what's going on. The whole theme of this book is like very easy to like see through, I guess. It's not really a big mystery what's happening, and if you enjoy like the cozy vibes, all of the dresses, all of the pastries, all of the food, like so much food, then you will probably like this book, but it just wasn't enough for me to feel very excited about it. And I think that the coziness sometimes made it even a little bit ridiculous, because there were like situations where our characters were like, oh my god, we're kidnapped by this evil man, but let's sit down and have dinner with him. And I'm like, okay, do whatever you feel like doing. It's a bit strange to me personally. I think that could have been cut down a little bit, the amount of dinners and food we get presented here. And I do have some bigger issues with this book as well. One I already talked about is with the German things, and that you could argue that this book is written by Catherine from mostly Mary's point of view, so the ignorance might lie in that. But then I guess all of the like different languages that are in here that neither Mary nor Catherine speak kind of defeat that argument. Because yeah, there were like some moments, especially with the Hungarian words, where they were spelled the correct way, and then after that it was explained how a person pronounced it correctly. And if we argue that this is written by Catherine, like how would she know? Like if she heard a name, how would she know how to spell it correctly if she doesn't speak Hungarian? So it doesn't really make a lot of sense in that regard. And so one of the things that bothered me, for example, were the addresses. So in Britain, you have the number first and then the name of the street, which is not how you do it in Germany, and I'm pretty sure not how you do it in Austria as well. So that was done incorrectly a ton of times in here. And then also we use the floors of a house differently. So our first floor would be the English second floor because we start with the ground floor. So in German you have ground floor, first, second, third. So the ground floor is basically zero. You know what I mean? And that is ignored in this book multiple times as well. Like the amount of times that things are on the second floor that should be on the first floor if we're talking about a German-speaking country. It just gets so annoying, you know? So that's like the annoying part, which just took me out of the story a ton of times. And Diana's hate for Knödel. I do not understand. I love all kinds of Klöße and Knödel, and I do not understand why she hates them. But oh well, dissing food is just not my favorite, especially if it's done by a person from a different country. Like, what right do you have to hate Knödel so much? And then the thing that I think is a bigger issue is that because of the way the story is told, we're kind of stuck in very antiquated ways of thinking, which the author tries to break down by making our characters very progressive for their time, but they're still in their time, and it is written like that. So especially with Mary's perspective, we get a lot of like, I don't know how to describe it, but just looking at foreigners as if they are foreigners while she is in their country, which is just uncomfortable to read. And then we also, later on in the book, there is a point where the G word is used for Romani people. And then a couple of pages later, maybe in the next chapter, the same character who uses that word casually explains how Romani people are discriminated against in Hungary at the time, and it just doesn't fit at all, you know, and that word is not used again, and then we kind of get this lecture how there is this discrimination from the same character who used the word. So that's just, you know, uncomfortable for me to read, to be honest, as well with like colonialism, which is brought up in some instances. Our characters drink tea and coffee all the time. I think it was in the first book where they discussed that there is no English tea because tea is from China or India or whatever. And then in this one, we have the whole like coffee madness, like all of our characters suddenly like coffee. And there's again like one instance where one of the characters is like, yeah, but your colonialism is actually really, really bad and I don't like it. And, you know, it's just hard to do this in a good way. And I think this book did not manage that at all. So my voice is going, which is a sign for me to shut up. But yeah, unfortunately, this book did not do what I wanted it to do. I'm quite glad that I have finished it now. I will take a break from the series because I'm burning myself out with it, and continue reading after I read something else for a change. Now, going into a few spoilers for this book, so jump over this if you have not read it yet. You can use the chapters, it's all down below. I wanted to just quickly go into a couple of spoilers. So the whole big thing, and that's probably still like a general point that I don't really love about the series, is the way that the original stories are changed to fit into this narrative. So in the first book, we have the Frankenstein storyline, and in this one, we have the Dracula storyline, and it's just completely warped. And now Van Helsing is the bad guy, and somehow Dracula becomes an ally, I guess, and stuff like that. So I think just like the like twisting and turning of these things, it's just very confusing to me, because I think you can tell a modern tale with these kinds of characters without changing them so much and without changing the original storyline. And it hurts me, but I always have to compare it to Penny Dreadful, because that's what they do. They take these characters, but they keep their core, and then they use that to tell a new story. While I feel like this one is taking the names of the characters, warping them in weird ways, and trying to make a new story out of that. And I just don't love it. So while also, if you know these stories, you will get some of the like mystery bits. So for example, if you know Carmilla, you can very easily see where the story is going when they are captured by Hyde. If you know Dracula, you will know that Mrs. Harker is the same person as Miss Murray, and so on and so on. So I felt like there just wasn't a real mystery there, because it is not changed enough to tell a really new story. It's just all mashed up in a weird way. And so, yeah, I wasn't the biggest fan of that, to be honest. And the whole like vampire storyline, it's just kind of old to me. I don't feel like it brought anything new, except maybe from this idea that love and being cared for is the thing that keeps vampires sane. But yeah, I don't know. It's just, I felt like the whole conclusion with Van Helsing and this like weird fight, and then this like Isis priestess person who is now the president. I don't know, I just did not feel satisfied with it all. And after 700 pages, I wanted to feel satisfied by the ending. That's my thoughts. It's pretty much a middle of the road book for me, and we'll see what the last book does. At least it is not 700 pages again. But as I said, I'm taking a short break before I venture into that, and I hope that the last book will be much better.
Another migraine day, so this will have to do. But I'm now halfway through the Sinister mystery of the Mesmerizing girl. I took the longest break ever. Like, I took a break before starting this, but then I did another break when I was about 100 and some pages in. This book, yeah, this whole series is just not really capturing my attention. Like, it's fine when I'm reading it, but I never feel the urge to return to reading it. And so I'm just struggling, with committing and just pushing through it a little bit. But it's not a bad book, it's just fine, Sometimes when you expect something to be great, but then it's just okay. I don't know. So yeah, in this one, we're back in the UK. And we do have a new big plot and kind of new evil people we are following. I can't really talk about that because it is spoilers. It involves characters that pop up in the second book and then become more important in this one. But you can tell from some of the symbols of the cover that this has more to do with Egypt. And I just don't feel quite comfortable with the way that this historical setting is used, because obviously colonialism is a difficult topic, and I'm not always 100% comfortable with the way it is discussed in here by the characters, because a lot of our characters are British, and so yeah, they just have weird opinions and they love their queen. And considering who the evil entity seems to be for the endgame now, it seems to be someone who wants to go up against colonizers, even though it's not the British specifically. But as I said, I can't go into it because of spoilers. I don't love the way that is incorporated here. And then we have our characters who are supposed to be like the progressive ones. So sometimes they will just be like, oh, I don't understand why everyone's so crazy about mummies and Egypt. But, you know, that's not great commentary. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I'm struggling with that. And apart from that, we do have just the same issues that I had with the other books, especially. I don't know, I just wanted this to be a bit of a deeper level. And it's just fun, it's entertaining, and there's no fault with that. But it's just not what I expected from the series. And I think if I would have known that this is just some fluff and fun, I would have gone in with lowered expectations and maybe just read the first book and then not continued on. But since I already had all of the books now and it was my goal to read them this year, we are pushing through. But I don't think I will say much more about this right now, because it will just prolong the video and I don't really have anything to say about it apart from it's fine, I'll finish it. This will probably be again like a 3, maybe 3.5 star read. We'll see how it ends. We have the part 2 now, and we'll see how it goes.
So here we are at the end, because I just finished reading The Sinister Mystery of the Mesmerizing Girl by Theodora Goss. Finally finished off this series, and I'm very glad that I did. I gave this final book 3.5 stars, as I think I did with the second one as well. It just wasn't enough to really capture my attention, and I was trying to think of a reason for that. And I think the main reason is that I am a character-driven reader. I need deep characters that I can really get to know, like really analyze and see what they're doing and be really intrigued by them and stuff like that. And I don't think you really get that in here. I think one of the reasons for that is that there's just too many characters. Like, we already have so many characters that are in the Athena club, that we have, you know, that kind of diversion all the time. We don't really get to know one of the characters really well. And then we have so many characters that are around them, but that also get a lot of attention. So it's just too much. So I didn't really get the connection to the characters that I wanted in here. And then also, I feel like the plot isn't bad. I actually really liked the way this ended, but it's also not great. I don't think you really read this for the plot as well. I think what you might read this for is the cozy vibes and the atmosphere, you know. But that's like the most or the least interesting thing to me when I read books. So something like the writing style or the atmosphere, if the characters and the story don't grip me, it's just not gonna cut it, I guess. So yeah, this wasn't my favorite series. Unfortunately, I really had such high hopes, but in the end, it didn't come together the way that I wanted it to. But that's also what happens sometimes. And it was still a solid series if you're looking for these like cozy vibes and slight mysteries. I would still say try this series out. It's just not very special in my opinion. And I already touched on some of the reasons yesterday. I didn't really like the way that colonialism was discussed in here, even though you can see what the author is trying to do. I just don't feel like she's really successful with it. The same thing with the British Museum. I just didn't feel like super comfortable with the way it was talked about in here. And just, yeah, I don't know. There are some characters that I wanted to be different. And we do get this romance subplot that is throughout all of the books with our character Mary, and I did not like it, so I also did not like how it ended in this book, but what can you do? I don't know. I just had like these things that I didn't really love, and so this was ultimately more of a disappointing series for me personally. Now, for what that series is, as I said, I did like the ending. I think it's wholesome, it's cute, and if you're here for those vibes, you will probably enjoy it. Something that I also realized while reading that last bit right now, I also brought that up with the second book, is that sometimes the cozy elements just don't make any sense to me. The way that food is brought up again and again in the weirdest situations. It's like, oh my god, we have to go out and we have to save people, but first let's have lunch. I'm like, is that how it works? Like, yeah, obviously you need to eat something, but it just happens again and again, and it just feels so weird in the storytelling. I just did not love that. So that's, I think, all I'm gonna say for this book, spoiler free. So if you've read it, I will mention a couple of spoilers now, but if you have not read it, thank you so much for watching. I hope this was still interesting for you to see, and I will be back soon with more reading vlogs for a series in 2024. So talking about spoilers, the one thing that was really annoying to me in a way is that in this one we have the return of the Sherlock Holmes, but it is a little bit different from the first book, so it wasn't quite as annoying to me. I still really don't like the romance between Mary and Sherlock. I just found it not to be convincing at all, because we see most of their interactions in the first book and none of that seems like swoon-worthy to me, I guess. So yeah, I just wasn't a very big fan of this, but obviously they have to kiss at the end to give the people what they want, whatever. It's fine. I did like that he was more of a victim in this book and had to be saved, so that at least wasn't quite as annoying to me as his portrayal in the first book. Apart from that, we still have the problem with the too many characters for me personally. We do have a lot of jumping around because sometimes we're following Alice in her captivity, then we're following Mary and Beatrice and Catherine, and at some point some of them are still in Hungary while others have returned to the UK, but then they're all in the UK, and then we have Ayesha as well, and it gets so much so quickly, and I felt like we don't really have a lot of surprises because we're already there seeing how plans are made. So for example, it was very obvious that Ayesha would come to save them in the end. If you could see my cat right now, she's so cute. I have this little stack of books I got for Christmas, and she's currently sitting right behind that, staring at me, wondering what the hell I'm doing. But yeah, so that wasn't a surprise that she is coming at the end to save them. We were not surprised by the whole plot that Alice is uncovering because we are uncovering it with her. So I felt like the book is killing its own intrigue with having so many characters that are everywhere all at once. So I just wasn't a very big fan of that. I still liked Alice as a character. I think she's one of the more interesting ones in the book, together with Justine and Beatrice, which are the more silent ones, so we get the least of them. We do get way more Mary, Diana, and Catherine, as we did in all of the other books, and I don't know, for some reason those characters just didn't do it for me. I still wanted this book to be way more queer than it is. It's so not gay at all. But what can you do? Overall, I think that this was fine. It was just fine. I don't really have any opinions. So let me know what you thought of the book. Did you like the ending? Did you like all of the like little reveals that we got? Did you think it was a great mystery? Because I really don't think that it was. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed watching. Leave a like or a nice comment. I always appreciate those. And I will talk to you very soon. Bye!